Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I show men and women how they can lead healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really excited because today I'm joined by Karen Anderson-Fignon. Hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you, Julie?
I'm good. It's really nice to see you. So, for those people that don't yet know Karen, she works as a career finder. So, I'm really curious to know more about that, Karen. But let's start with your growing up. Did you learn from your parents about working and having a career? Did they talk to you about that?
Not really. I grew up like more in a traditional American household where my mother didn't work. She did go to school though, which was unusual for at that age, going and getting her master's. She actually would take us for undergraduate, and during her classes in her master's program, we would sit at the back of the classroom and color. So I think education was more stress than any kind of career.
Okay. So did you know what you wanted to do from a young age? Or did that
Um,
come much later?
it's kind of funny. It came later. When I was very young, I always wanted to be a writer, and I would write stories continuously, and that really has never kind of left. That's one of my things I'd like to do on my bucket list. Is I would like to either write a book or write a chapter in something. However, when I was in 8th grade, my grandmother asked if I would like to go to Acapulco with her. It was a long story to make it short. My Aunt Pat, she was going with, and she got sick. She couldn't go. My mother wouldn't go. So, I was the next on the agenda to ask. And at that moment, that's all I wanted to do was become a flight attendant. So, but it's just kind of funny how, life gets in the way when and that's the reason why I'm on the path where I am, is because I wanted to be a flight attendant and everybody said no, no. And I kind of forgot about it. Then when American Airlines was hiring, I forget what her name was, but I'll call her Susie Smith. She went in for an interview and she didn't get the job. And so when I said, oh, I've always wanted to be a flight attendant, I'm going to do that. Everyone in the restaurant where I was at the time was bartending said, oh, they didn't hire Susie, they'll never hire you. And I never applied. And I kind of did my own thing for the next 6 years until I actually applied to become a flight attendant and was hired. And that was 33 years ago.
Wow. What is it? I know you're actually a purser, aren't you? So what do you love about that?
It's the purser is, well, it's you're always working up front, but you're also kind of like in charge of the way the service goes and things that happen on the aircraft. And I like things to work the way they're supposed to. So that helps me achieve that. But that's really not what I like about the job. What I like about the job is the flexibility. I'm always going to new places. I've gotten to see the world. I've been able to take my children all over with me. And I just think that it just broadens your education and as a person to understand more how people live when you live in one area or one town, country, you don't have that experience to see what other cultures do and have that understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely concur with that. I mean, I think that travel is just such an extraordinary thing to do. It's such an education, and I think it's really, really important to do it. So I know though, from flights that I've been on, I've been sitting down, obviously, that attendants work really, really hard, Karen. So how do you deal with the really long flights? Because you do long haul, don't you?
I do, and I do, but they're mostly at night. So most people do go to sleep. When it's full, it's a little harder for them. But since I typically leave at around 11 p.m. at night and arrive in the morning, wherever it is, like 10 hours later, most of the time, once everybody eats and settles in, they settle in and sleep. Unfortunately, with those long hauls, you have, I think, more kind of medical kind of issues that happen. People take sleeping pills. They don't eat, but they're stressed and they become dehydrated, or they have low sugar and they end up fainting. So it's kind of like it's a good and bad. Like you get different things depending on those long haul flights, which I do now.
So it sounds like you need to be a bit of a doctor, and you also need to be a bit of a therapist when people are dealing with anxiety, because I guess that's quite a common thing, isn't it? People having a fear of flying.
It is actually, it's not unusual to have somebody on a flight that'll say, oh, can I talk to the captain, or can I talk to you? I'm not a good flyer and I get a little, stressed out. What can you do? And, and in those situations when they present themselves to us, we try to always circle back and see how they're doing throughout the flight continuously, because it's a crew of 11 flight attendants. So I'll tell them, the passenger in 12L is a nervous flyer, whoever's working that cabin. And then I'll walk through as the purser. I always walk through the cabin and I'll check and just make sure that they're okay. Usually they settle in.
Yeah. So having that reassurance is brilliant, isn't it? So what would be your the most favorite place you've ever been to?
The less favorite place.
No, your most favorite.
Oh, my most favorite place.
Yeah.
I have so many wonderful places that I've been. So I'd rather do it this way. I'd rather say the most beautiful city in the world, I think, is Paris. And I can never not walk those streets. I love the food in, I do love the food in Paris too, but I love the food in South America. I like that cuisine. I fly to Buenos Aires a lot, and they to me are just really clean cooking when you go into those different restaurants that serve your steaks, and the cream of spinach is one, and the wine. And then I think Africa was my most, on a safari, was my most wow. Just being able, because I'm an outdoor person, and just seeing that wildlife.
Yeah, love it. So
Yeah.
have you had, we've all had challenges, haven't we, in life? That's what happens. Being a human being is a challenging thing. So what kind of challenges have you had to face, Karen, in your life, and how do you overcome them?
Let's see. Well, I guess one of the biggest challenges was being a flight attendant. And when I was married, and I was living abroad at the time, and getting divorced and becoming a single mother with 2 kids, and trying to schedule my children's care, which thank goodness my mother at that time was able to help me. And I was eventually hired a sitter that would come and stay when I was gone. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think the other one is trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And when I realized I loved being a flight attendant, but I didn't want to work full time the rest of my career, doing that, trying to figure out what it was that interested me, and what was it that I had forgotten when I was young that I wanted to do. Does that kind of make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always been creative. I started with creative writing, and then I had opened, I started doing framing for a while, pictures, and doing that sort of artwork. And I was a photographer. I went to school, my undergraduate degree is in photography. So, I kind of was in that realm, but that wasn't quite satisfying to me. And then I was making jewelry, and I had made a bracelet to sell for the local community to raise money for our food bank and fuel bank. And this one residential school for adolescent girls called me and said, we'd like to support your cause. We'd like to buy 6 bracelets, but would you do a workshop and teach the girls how to make the bracelets? And I said, sure. So I thought, okay, I can do this. So went in, looked at these girls and said, oh my gosh, this could be my daughter in like 4 years, because she was around 12 years at the time. And they had like severe problems that they had to, were enough where they had to go and live somewhere to work on them and continue their schooling. And when I had finished that workshop, the woman in charge was an art therapist. And she said, why don't you go to school for art therapy? I think you would be wonderful. And I didn't even know what that was. And so, of course, I investigated it. And I myself had to go back and finish my undergraduate. I was 5 credits short. I needed a US history and like a political science or something like that. So I finished that degree and worked. I had to take all my art classes and enrolled in a master's of art therapy. And what I find really interesting, and this is what I want to share with the world, is by doing that, by trying to go back to really what made me feel fulfilled and have meaning, which was working in art in that creative atmosphere, was that while I was in school, I had to take a career counseling class because that's mandatory in the master's degree. And I ended up creating what is now my passion, and I believe my purpose in life, which is this assessment tool that helps people find meaning and what kind of environment they feel best in, which is
Brilliant.
what I do now.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that in a minute. But I know that you've got this incredible quote. I love this quote. It says on your website, it says, change your story, change your life. So can you just elaborate on that, Karen?
Well, all of us we're a lot of times I'll use you for example, you're where you are in your life, or it's a journey, it's a book. And one of the things that as a therapist I had learned is that you go and you can change your engine. It doesn't mean that if you're on a track and it's not either a healthy track or not one that you want to be on, which is your track, your story, your journey, you're in the position to be able to change that. And it's you that needs to change it, not somebody else. Other people help you and guide you. But if you change your story, like I did, by, going back and finding out what made me feel really good, what made me feel fulfilled, then that changed my story now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so powerful. And nothing's set in stone, is it? We can change our thoughts and change our actions, and all sorts of things can show up differently. So tell us about epics, Karen. Some people may not have heard of it. So explain what it is and explain exactly how you help people.
Okay, so epics is actually an acronym. It's for the assessment. The assessment is called the Environment and Personality Intuitive Card Sort. And a card sort is a certain kind of assessment. So what it does is it tells you about your personality and the best environment for you to be in. So for example, it's also based on the Holland Codes, which is like a cornerstone of career development. It's used like in the US for the Department of Labor. They use that as a guide to help people find their careers. And so how it helps you and how and why it works so well is, number one, it's only done with imagery. They're only done with pictures. There's actually 108 of them, and you kind of look at it and you say, I'm attracted to this. I find this picture interesting. I'd like to learn more, or nothing at all. And so at the end of the whole assessment, after going through and flipping through these images, it will tell you your dominant themes. And not to get too into detail, but it's based on the Holland themes. There are 6 of them. And what this man back in the 50s had discovered, that occupations and personalities have these same themes. And if you could get them to align and in a way that they were compatible, then you would find the best place for you to be in. So that being said, I feel that your environment and your personality are a little bit different. And when you take the assessment, you'll find that your personality will come out 3 codes, three of these themes, and your environment usually will have the same, but there'll always be something different. And I believe that in order for us to be happy, it's really important for us to understand how we function in different places, which I call environments. So, for example, if you're somebody that doesn't enjoy, sitting at a desk, that you need to know that before looking for a job that might have that position.
Brilliant. I mean, you very kindly let me do it. And I have to say, for any of you watching, I would absolutely recommend it. And obviously I'm going to put all of Karen's links below this video, but it was such fun. It was just, it was a joy to do it, really. And it's hard to believe that there's 108, you say 108 pictures, because it goes by so quickly. So I would really, really recommend that you absolutely do it. So you talked about a lot of things, clearly you're very, very adaptable and versatile and creative. How do you actually juggle the different things that you do, Karen? Because that's a lot to juggle.
It is a lot. And so my kids always laugh, but I work continuously, and it's not work for me. I do enjoy it. So when I go somewhere, I'm usually in my hotel. I will be doing emails and answering different questions for people, or I'll be writing a program. So one of the things that I love doing is writing activities for you to think about yourself. And so I think that's just like, it just kind of works in my daily. Every morning I get up and I walk 3 to 5 miles in the morning, and I kind of organize my day that way and kind of see where I need to go. And my flying, I don't fly as much as I used to. I'm trying now to put more time into working with epics in my business, because hopefully I'll be able to hire people now to do the day-to-day work, where I'll be able to stay and just do presentations and the creative part, and have somebody else do all the tweaking.
Yeah, you can just do all the stuff that you love, Karen, can't you? And give the other
That's,
stuff to someone else. Isn't that?
that's my goal. I mean, that should be everybody's goal,
I
you
know.
know?
Hello. Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, if you could give your younger self some advice, looking back, what would you say?
I would say be true to your inner self, because I didn't do that when I was younger. Excuse me. And I missed 7 years of flying. But on the other hand, I also was able to have a very interesting life. But I think you shouldn't listen to what other people think. I say, take their advice, absolutely. However, you need to say to yourself, is this being true to me? Is this what I want? And I think if I had been younger, I would say to myself that to be maybe slightly less focused than I was when I was younger. I was always trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I really knew what I wanted to do. And I just, again, I didn't know. So that's why, by taking my assessment, by taking other assessments, and just learning more about yourself will put you in a much better position to find that purpose and meaning in your life.
I love that you talked about not listening to other people's opinions, because they don't know who you are. And actually, how pointless is it listening to someone else's opinion if they're not where you want to be? Absolutely, listen to people who you are inspired by, but not people who really are not living a great life. That's my thoughts about that one.
Absolutely. It's always that saying that, you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends, and you need to surround yourself with the people, like-minded people, in order for you to go forward. That was my problem. I didn't surround myself with like-minded people, and I should have. And I was stuck with, I think now the opportunity is greater for young people than as much as when I was growing up, because my parents' roles were it was so predetermined that even when I was in school, anything that I said that didn't fit that mold of a woman, whether it was, I'm back in the 70s, where, you became a nurse or you became a teacher. Women weren't able to think, oh, I'm going to open my own company and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, apply for, I don't know what, something that was not normal for a woman to do. And I think now there's really great opportunity if you really listen to your inner self, and not just women, for men too, because the shifts in the workscape are really changing on who can do what, which is great.
Yeah. And going back to what you said at the beginning about writing, have you got a book in mind? Not that you necessarily need to tell us, but have you got something you think, yeah, if I have the time, if I make the time, actually, this is the one I'm going to write?
Well, I've kind of toyed around with a couple different things, because I still have my stories back when I was kindergarten writing. I started early. In first grade, they were like, I had an imaginary tiger friend. He was a tiger. And I have those. And so I would love to go back and do some kind of story book about finding out who you are with those characters that I created when I was little, because I think it would resonate with the children.
Oh, yes.
That the other thing, of course, for my business, I would like to just write a chapter in a book somewhere, or start a book about careers. But again, I don't want it the typical one, because I am more about what do you need for your work, because it's really important to have the same values that you're wherever you work has the same culture as you, what's important and those kind of things. So I'd like to have a book published that was, okay, finding out your meaning, your purpose, but using that as a avenue of your interests and strengths and focusing on what you need as so much as what your employer needs, because it's kind of shifting.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, one last question.
Sure.
When you're no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered? That's a tough one because I really like doing my artwork. I don't think I'd be remembered as a flight attendant because that doesn't, I guess it would be being the creator of epics. And my goal, my hope will be for it to become a large company and out of my hands because it's too big for me. So I think that's it, to be known for having people find out really who they are and listening to their inner self more.
Who doesn't want that? Fantastic. Karen Anderson-Fignon, thank you so very much for talking to us.
It's been my pleasure. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. So the link will be there and I'll be happy to answer them.